So here's the scenario. You're a new SOC analyst, right? Your first day on the job, you come in and your team lead or your CIO or your supervisor comes to you and says, "Hey, John, hey, Albert, hey, Kwame, hey, Kofi, uh, I need you to give me a report of failed login attempts." Okay, the AD team is complaining about failed logins and the network team things were compromised. I need a report that shows me failed login attempts before I go to this meeting, right? So instantly, as a new SOC analyst, and this is your day one, you're thrown into the fire, right? You have to perform. So no one's giving you any documentation. You just have to figure things out. First thing you would have to do, right, is to find this index that you're supposed to be pulling this data from, the failed login attempts. Well, we understand this is authentication and access, right? That's where logins happen. So best bet is to go take a look at your indexes to see, mind you, you can do a blind search. You still find your data somehow, but best way to do it is to go find the index that holds the data that you're looking for. And since this is under authentication, I will take a stab at just doing a search for authentication, right? Anything AUTH off. And luckily, I find two files or two indexes that show, that have the name AUTH, auth logs, auth log apps. Well, my hunch is on auth logs only, right? So I'll just copy that or memorize it, go back to my search app here, and I'll do um, an index search for that, right? Alternately, I probably could have done something more like index equal asterisk to, you know, give me all the indexes within the environment. Of course, this is not showing it. We're not getting any results because this is happening in the last 24 hours. Guys, if your SPL, your search processing language does not give you any results, right? So this is not an actual error. It's just saying, hey, I found nothing. Please expand um, your time window, right? Or your search window, right? So let's just go all time to just end this search right here. Now we found some data, so I can do an index equals asterisk and just get all the indexes that are out here and so on and so forth. But you know there's a cleaner way to do index searching, right? Here you have a ton of stuff. You're getting many counts within the index, right? You're getting 158 events. That's not how many indexes we have, because we saw that it's not that many. um, right? And you can see some of these indexes are being repeated. So the best way to do that, right, is to I think I can leave that code there, but I'll do an event count here. Okay, and I'll set false and then index. Right, so that gives me a cleaner look at the indexes that we have, right? So again, I can see my auth log sitting here, employee, I got only three um, indexes when I ran the other. So I'll just copy this, right? Copy that. And if I go back, you'll notice that I had only three indexes here, right? And that's telling you that these were not empty indexes. These had values in them, right? Um, the other two, like if you were to go back to indexes here, you see that we have a bunch of different indexes, but that did not come out here in the count because some of them are, things that Splunk is using itself internally. But anyway, let's go back here. We get a count of the logs that we have. I'm again going back to my auth logs, right? So what I'll do is to do a search within the auth logs. And again, index equal double quotes auth underscore logs with an S, and I'll close my double quotes, right? And as you can see, as I was typing, Splunk IntelliSense was actually helping me out, right? So I can just go and click on, whatever IntelliSense is suggesting I do, right? But I'm going to keep going here. So what I'm really looking for is failed login attempts, right? So first thing I need to do is really look at the data and figure out, you have to study the data, right? And again, as I mentioned earlier in one of my classes, I'm getting all this, there's a lot going on here. I can hide fields, but then again, I'm not even sure that I'm seeing every column that I should be seeing, right? Sometimes Splunk will do something like it'll come up, right, give you your data and hide things like that, right? So very important information will not be visible to you. So what I'll do is I'll do a pipe table asterisk. That's telling Splunk to show me all the columns in a table format. So now here I go. I have everything I need. And in order to really understand how to query this table, right, you have to understand what you're about to do and get some ideas. I see that, okay, we have a country column, we have applications, date, hour, date, month, date, minute. Well, date, day, date, month, minute, date, month, second, a lot of extra data that I might not need. We have, whatever day, year, destination host, IP. There's a lot, right? But what am I really looking for? I'm not looking for the day or the month or the time or the second that this was attempted. I need to see a list of failed login attempts, like who was trying to log in and failed, right? That's really my goal here. Um, so how would I even know, right, who failed? So that means that I need to find which column is holding the failures, right? So I'll do a search on the browser here, right? Control F, hit enter. So we have some failure text here, great. But I need a column that has like a whole bunch of like, okay, this failed, this failed, this failed. Great. So we have failure, we have success, we have failure, we have success. So this is my column, right? So this is where I need to do the search on and say, hey, Splunk, go into this index called auth logs, and then give me a listing of all the attempted logins where the status is a failure, right? And if I was doing that for success, it'd be the same thing, reverse. Go in here, pull all the data where the status equals success. All right, so I'm going to write this out. Again, I don't need this table anymore, right? So I'll get rid of that. So here I can do pipe, right? So pipe means you're chaining commands. So the first command was index equal auth logs. Go get me all the data in the auth logs. And then the next command is where status, right? So that's so where is a command itself. That's why it's color coded. Splunk has reserved it as a special word, even though it's an English word. And status is a column, right? So where status equal failure. Now I'm going to do this here so we can illustrate something. Where status equals failure. That makes sense, right? Now watch this. If I ran this, I get no results found. And someone will say, hey, failure is failure. It's an F, it's an A, ILURE. There is no typo. But I think what we're missing here is case sensitive. Splunk is case sensitive, especially when you're talking about column data, the text in there. It has to be accurate. Of course, you can do certain things like, you can put an asterisk that says, anything in this, anything before this text here. You can do stuff like that. But now in this video, we want to be specific. So we want failed login attempts. And this is what we're getting, right? So where status equals failure. So if we come over here to our status column, again, I'm going to do a control F to say status because I can't really see it with all this text out here. So where's our status column? Okay, it's right here, right? So I can check it and then go back and now I see the status column. right? It's all the way back here. So we now have a listing, right? We have 9 incidents where users try to log into the system and it was a failure. Now, which users were logging in? And you're a SOC analyst, right? You're going to prepare a report after this and so on and so forth. So you need to document, right? So if we look at our users, the users we have are Grace, Dave, and Alice, and then we have some suspicious activity here where there's no name. We don't know if it's a service account, a bot, somebody impersonating something. I mean, all we have here is a dash, right? So this is something to investigate. But at least now we have a report. Now, uh, you know, a report being all text like this really doesn't pop, right? If you're giving your CIO or your supervisor something, or even your team, you need to provide them with something that's really visual and it communicates when you look at it. So I would suggest we give them a sort of uh, some kind of a chart to look at, right? Okay, so in order to create a chart, let's go with our stats command here. We'll do a count by user, right? Because that's important because we need to know who's doing this stuff here. Maybe they need help, maybe they're a bad guy. Okay, you're a SOC analyst, you need to be thinking maybe these are good guys, maybe these are bad guys, right? But at least you'll know who they are. Okay, so we want to do a stats count by user and then also source IP right here. Okay, so if I run this piece of code, we are going into the big leagues here, right? We have our stats. And again, stats actually does provide visualizations, right? There are other commands that give you, charts and whatnot, but stats is one of the big ones, right? So here we have, we can see the count, right? We see count by user, right? So basically what we're saying is Alice, Dave, and Grace did one attempt to log on to the system, right? One attempt and failed. But then this anonymous suspicious account here has done it 3 times and twice. And you know what I mean? So there's a lot going on. This is definitely going to get investigated, but first we need to finish our report, right? So also something we can say, right? We can actually even take this further and say something like, do all this, right? Find all this information where the count, right? This count right here is greater than 2, like 2 times. So if it's greater than 2, give us that data, right? So that means 3, which is this account here, right? We can do that. And also we can do this and say where the count is greater than 1, which will bring everything above 1, right? Or we can leave it as is and simply run it and have our report. Now, in terms of visualization, you can save, if your supervisor says, hey, I want a column chart, you can give this to them, right? If you mouse over, you'll see which user this is, right? Again, user count right here by user. We're doing, yeah, so it's user. And then, of course, the IP addresses in here, right? So these are IPs that can be whatever, blacklisted, blocked, investigated, filtered somewhere, and so on and so forth, right? You can save this as a, column chart, bar chart, right? Depending on whatever you want. Or you can go here and do a pie chart. But the pie chart actually does need numeric data, which we're not offering here in this particular um, command, right? So we'll go ahead and keep this as a column chart. Now, I actually prefer that bar chart. And we'll save this as, but what we could do is call this one failed logins report. Okay, and we can save it. And we can go view it. We can add it to a new or existing dashboard for, You can build a new dashboard and dump this in it. You can have an existing dashboard, put that into it, this report into it, or you can just not do all that and simply view your report. All right, so this is something that if it's running, you can schedule this to run periodically. If it's actively monitoring, then anytime you set your eyes on this report, it'll be accurate. All right, so that concludes this video. Stay tuned for more SOC analyst recipes, right? SPL Splunk recipes coming up soon. Okay, we'll be sharing more and more and more code and snippets.